Okay, welcome everyone. We're just going to wait another minute or so, just to give people time to come across from the other sessions. I'm aware that we've got sort of back-to-back sessions today, so I'll just wait a little while so that we can make sure that people have come. All right, great. So I think that we will make a start then. So thank you so much for joining and welcome to Creative UK. If this is the first session that you've joined today, welcome. If this is one of several sessions that you've joined, we really hope that you've enjoyed it so far. So today we're going to be covering studying media, game design, user experience and visual effects in the UK. I'm just going to quickly introduce who we've got here. My name is Rachel Sene and I'm the representative at Falmouth University. I'm also delighted to be joined today by Nuala from Norwich University of the Arts and Will, who's from Goldsmiths. And so this is what we are going to be covering today. So we're looking at courses, careers, applications, and who we are. Now, an hour isn't very long for us to go through all of the different elements of these courses, and also it's a very, very big subject area that we're covering here today. So really what we're hoping to do is to just give you a snapshot and an overview of what you can expect when studying these degrees. But please do investigate yourself even more by looking on our websites. At the end, I am going to leave some time for questions, so please do write your questions. You can put them either in the chat or in the Q&A section, which you should be able to see at the bottom of your screen. I'm sure we're all very familiar with Zoom now, so please do send us your questions as we go, and we'll leave some time at the end to answer those. So I just wanted to start off by showing some of the courses available. So you're going to hear later on from Nuala just how huge this sector is and how fast it's growing. And that is really reflected in the sheer number and the range of the different courses that are available in this area. So these are just the courses that we have available at our three university, and I'm sure that you can imagine at all the universities across the UK, just how many different courses there are. So how can you distinguish between the different types of courses? Well, firstly, it's the length of the course. So most degrees, undergraduate degrees in the UK are 3 years long. You will have some 4-year long options, and these are often options that will include a year in placement, or we do have some 2-year accelerated degree courses. This is when you can do a degree in 2 years. Now, there are options for a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science, and this really depends on what aspect of this field interests you. Are you interested in more of the technical side of user experience or games development or robotics, or are you interested in more of the creative side and looking more at a Bachelor of Arts and more of a broader look at these subjects? And then the institutions themselves, well, there will be a huge range. So you've got some specialist institutions, so institutions that just look at creative subjects, or you'll find these courses as a department in part of a multi-faculty university that will be covering lots and lots of different subjects. And there are pros and cons to both, so it's worth just thinking about the type of experience that you want to have. And so, what can you expect when doing one of these degrees? Well, again, it really varies by course and by institution. And so, it's really important that you look at each institution's website and course pages to see exactly what will be covered. Courses with the same name at different institutions will be taught and will cover different things. So studying game development at Falmouth will be very different to studying it somewhere else. So it's really worth spending the time to do your research. But generally, this is what you can expect if you're studying one of these degrees. So you can expect to be taught specialist industry-specific skills using high-quality specialist equipment and facilities. One of the benefits of studying these areas at degree level is the access to the facilities that you get. And I'm going to come on to that in just a little while. You're likely to be studying areas that you've never had a chance to study before at school or at college. So areas such as coding, concept art for games production and games development pipelines. But don't worry, you'll have academics and technicians on hand to support you as you learn these new skills and learn these new areas. Typically, these courses will be very hands-on and practical. You will not just be in a lecture theatre, although there will be an element of that. So you could be having workshops in media labs, in robotics labs, working in animation studios, or even with green screens. You will be expected to practice and develop your skills through project and research-based work. Often your main assessments will be these projects rather than theory exams, although it's likely you'll have some elements of that. So for example, if you do a games development degree, you will likely be expected to create your own games either in teams or individually, and you'll be assessed on the game itself as a final outcome, just as an example. Alongside learning specialist technical skills, you will also spend time developing transferable skills as well. So these will be skills like entrepreneurship, how to pitch your ideas, how to work in teams with different disciplines, and how to respond to a brief. And all of these skills will be really important when you graduate. Teaching hours will vary by course and by institution, but at all institutions, you will be expected to have some level to spend some time in self-study, developing your skills and your projects. Um, Often your projects will involve working in teams, and this may sometimes be with students from outside of your course. So for example, again, to come back to games development, if you're focusing on programming, you may well be working with a game artist or a game animator and really get used to working in these cross-disciplinary teams to create a finished product. But perhaps the best part about studying one of these degrees is that you are going to be surrounded by like-minded people. This really is one of the best things about going to university is that you're no longer going to be in the minority in having a real passion for games or computing or production. You're going to be surrounded by entire classes or even departments full of people that have the same passions as you, both students and staff. And so one of the best things that I've mentioned as well about studying these degrees is the access to facilities. So using these facilities, you'll have the chance to experiment and develop your skills in facilities or using equipment that you may have never even heard of before. You will have technicians on hand to support you while you get to grips with these different software and with these different facilities. And often you will also have the opportunity to be able to take certain equipment or download software to use for your projects at home. Access to these professional standard facilities and equipment really enables you to develop those very industry specific skills that will support you to get a job when you graduate. And facilities will massively vary by university, and so it's worth thinking about the kind of facilities that you're looking for. Are you looking for a really large games development studio? Are you looking for sort of specialist labs? So it's really worth checking the university website to see what's on offer. And here's just some examples of the sort of facilities that you could have access to. We've got a games development studio, you can see that on the top in Falmouth, a sonic immersive media lab, a robotics lab, a virtual reality lab. You have 2D or 3D animation studios, so specialist animation studios, green screen stop motion studios, computer suites, motion capture suites, which you can see in the middle picture there, and lots more. And again, do your research to see exactly what facilities you would have access to. And the opportunities for development won't just be while you're studying. There will also be loads of opportunities outside of your course to develop your skills. And these are just a few examples. So a games jam, and these are offered at lots of different universities that offer games development or games design degrees. A games jam is when participants work together to design and develop games based on a given theme over a matter of days. So normally it's over a weekend. So you would have the Friday that you'd be given the theme, and by the Sunday we would be expected to see a finished product. So this is a great opportunity to really use your skills to meet loads of different games developers from all over the country, and to really build your professional network and have lots of fun as well. As well as this, you'll have lots of opportunities to meet with guest speakers and with industry professionals. As I say, this is a very industry specific area to study. So most universities will have lots of industry professionals coming in, enabling you to learn from them, to learn best practice, and to just get their experience of working in the industry. The other great thing is that you are developing skills that are going to be really, really valuable. And we're going to learn about that in just a second from Nuala. But that doesn't mean that you have to wait until you graduate to start using these skills. So you can start developing your own games, your own apps, but also you can start to work with different student societies through the student union. So podcasts, radio shows, YouTube videos, these are all going to be using the skills that you are going to be developing while you're doing your degree. And again, if you are studying in a games development, particularly in esports, then lots of universities will have their own esports teams. So you will likely have opportunities to compete on behalf of your university in esports leagues. So these are just few opportunities that you'll have available. But speaking of careers, I think I'm now going to hand over to Nuala.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about careers. As Rachel already mentioned, and I think you got an idea, there are lots of different degrees that you can do in these areas, which in turn lead to lots of different jobs in these industries. So I'm going to try and give you a brief overview of them over the next couple of slides. But again, it's really worth exploring not just what you want to study, but what you might want to do. And that will usually be built into your degree as well. But a really good piece of news is that the UK really is a great place to study these different degrees. It's the 5th biggest games market in the world, and it is still growing. There was a real boom a couple of years ago during the pandemic, and it's just kept on growing and growing since. The UK also has a worldwide reputation for the screens industry. So for instance, 4 of the largest visual effects companies in the world are housed in the UK. And there are studios where you would see the VFX produced for big blockbuster films and franchises. So those effects will be produced here. The UK screens industry doesn't just include VFX, it also includes animation and film production. And it's also a sector that is growing massively and has a worldwide reputation, not just for the quality of the work it produces, but also international success. So in terms of careers, there are a lot of different roles that you can go into. We've put a short list of them here by wider areas. So for instance, for animation and VFX, you might think, well, I want to do animation because I want to become an animator. That's what I want to do. But there are a lot of different roles that you can go into within that wider industry. So you might want to be an animator, but maybe actually what you enjoy doing is designing characters. And in that case, you could become a character designer. Maybe you're really into the more technical side of animation and you want to work with building a beautiful 3D environment, which is also something that you would learn through 3D animation, but also in game art and design, for example. You might be much more of a creative type, and you might be drawn more towards a BA. So for instance, game art and design. And in that case, you could do things like being an artist. Concept artist, for instance, is very popular. And that could then lead on to becoming an art director. You might actually say, well, I love games, but I'm actually all about how they work and how playable they are. And be more into the tech and computing side of things. And again, there's a lot of things you can do there in more of a games development degree, for instance, or a computing or creative computing degree. So there are things like level editor, games designer, programming, development, DevOps engineer, game developer, and software researcher or web designer. Media and UX design is a slightly different area again. So with UX and UI design, you are essentially developing interfaces and applications. So you could be building apps for any number of businesses, but you're essentially building solutions for people to interact with different companies or businesses in a creative way. And again, that can be very technical. So you might be into the development side of things, like a front-end developer, or you could be more into the aesthetics and go into product design, for example. So just to show you that even if you think that, oh, I'm going to work in games, there are very, very different roles that you could be doing. But the key thing is, ultimately, you're a creative and no creative works alone. You will be introduced to skills that will be relevant to all of these roles. And it really is then up to you to see where your strengths lie and what you're most passionate about. So successful alumni, we'll show you a bit more of their work on the next slide. But as I said, the UK really does have a reputation for excellence in the creative industries and our creative education. We've just given you a couple of examples here from our institutions. So a recent graduate of NUA, Aidan Lasanto, he originally studied game art and design, but then decided to go into UX, and he is now art director and lead UX designer for Sprung Studios in Brighton. And he's worked on lots of really big name games like Valorant, Call of Duty Mobile, and Injustice 2. And that you can see a little bit of the artwork for that there on the screen. Falmouth, another successful games graduate, Madison Riley, she now works at Lucid Games Studio, and her modeling skills you will have seen in really high profile games like Need for Speed. So here we have another selection of our successful alumni. You can really recognize, I'm sure, some of these brand names and franchises and shows. And it's just to give you an idea of where you can go from studying your creative degree in one of the UK institutions. You do end up working for top game studios or top VFX companies, and you do end up contributing to very widely recognized works of art.
So now that you've seen a wide variety of the types of courses and degrees that you can apply for and the types of careers that exist in these fields, you might want to consider applying to one of these programs at one of our universities. So, there's a lot of ways to do research, but two of the best ways are one, through individual university websites, so checking out all of our schools and seeing what we have to offer. But two, the UCAS website is also an amazing resource for you to sort, by region of the UK, by type of school, by size of school, things like that, to kind of explore all the options that you have in these fields. Most of our programs will require a portfolio or an interview, or perhaps both, during the application process, but each university website will tell you exactly what is required of you when you're applying. For the application, we typically recommend that you use UCAS, but some universities do offer direct applications as well. I think Falmouth, for instance, does a direct application, but correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel. And you also should take note of deadlines to apply and submit work. And for the application as well, typically if you're applying through UCAS, you'll be invited to submit a portfolio and do an interview after your application is submitted, because UCAS does not allow for documents to be uploaded. So it's very important that after you apply that you monitor your email and make sure that you're paying attention to what admissions officers and universities are asking of you. So what we're looking for most of our programs is a wide variety of things, but technical ability and just a general curiosity for your subject is very important. Though we also will teach you technical ability, so don't be too concerned about that at the high school level. When you're coming into college, there should be a baseline, but it's not something that we typically require absolutely for all of our programs. But the personal statement and sort of your extracurricular activities should demonstrate that you're interested in these subjects and that you're willing to learn and to create and to explore these topics and fields through new media. We're also looking for a commitment to the field, and if you have career aspirations, that you should kind of clearly delineate those as well, and have a general vision and passion for scholarship in these subjects. So some programs will have theory and critical analysis as part of the program, as well as studio and practice work. And also just a general readiness for, to be gritty and to take risks and make mistakes. That's a big part of creating art. It's a lot like science. You try, and then finally, if you, after so much trying, you finally can maybe do something. And that's sort of how we sort of approach these as well. So, you're looking to invent new things, create new games, create new media. And this is a lot of the jobs that you might be thinking of now. Obviously they exist now, but there's a lot of jobs that don't even exist yet that you could be exploring as well in a decade's time. For the portfolio, we do encourage you to include a variety of work and showcase your full experience. So, the work doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect, final, finished, polished product, but you should obviously include some pieces that are sort of finished. But if you have concepts or notes or things like that, a lot of our institutions look for a variety of things in a portfolio. So it doesn't always have to be a technically perfect, polished piece of work. You should know how many pieces are required. So at Goldsmiths, for instance, we typically require anywhere between 10 and 12 works for undergraduate programs. But each individual university will tell you what is required as part of the portfolio. And like I said, it's important to show idea development. So it's also great if you have pieces that go from concept and note stage, like early stages, through to drafts and then up to completion. And some universities will require that you have a sort of a list of what's included in the portfolio, and sometimes a brief explanation to go along with each piece of work. But if not, in the interview process, you should be prepared to also talk about your work and be ready to answer questions about it. The interview process is often, not so much, we're not looking for reasons to reject you. We're sort of looking for reasons to allow you to explore these programs at our universities. And we're also looking to make sure that it's a right fit for you. So, every university, as Rachel mentioned before, has different sort of degrees, modules and things inside each degree. So we're just wanting to make sure also that the university and the program is a right fit for you, and it's what you're looking for as well. So the interview process really goes both ways. It's not just us trying to find out if you're a good fit for us. It's also that, we're a good fit for you. And when you're looking at the application process, we have open days at all of our universities. I know our undergraduate open days is in late June this year. And each university will give you the opportunity to speak to students, current students and staff. We also have things like Unibuddy, which you can go on our website. A lot of universities have this where you can talk to current students or staff members about our programs. You can check out virtual tours or online events. Sometimes departments will hold events as well. So, a lot of our departments have their own Instagram pages that they kind of host different events and things like that. So you can go on social media and check that out as well. Researching courses thoroughly, as I already mentioned before, is really important, just to make sure that they're right for you and that the modules and that the research that staff is doing is appropriate for what you're looking for. And also making sure that you have the right access to equipment and facilities. I think I can speak for all of us when I say we have state-of-the-art facilities on our campuses that are very cutting edge. So there's definitely a lot of ways to explore that. All of our websites will, at least ours does, I assume everyone else's does as well. They'll tell you exactly what facilities are on campus and show you pictures and things like that. And our virtual tour also has that as well. But it's also, important to ask a lot of questions. We are admissions officers and recruitment officers. We're here for you. We're here to answer your questions. We're not scary people that, are looking through your application with a fine-tooth comb and a monocle, looking for reasons to reject you. We're here to help you and help you make the right decision, and do what's right for you in your future.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Will. Speak for yourself. I've definitely got a monocle that I use when I'm chatting with students. So just joking. So that's a kind of whistle-stop tour of studying these areas. As I said, because these different areas are so different, and because it does differentiate between different universities, it's really worth asking lots of questions, as Will mentioned. So we're going to leave lots of time now for questions, so please do get them into us. But before that, we thought it was worth just introducing a little bit about who we are and what we do, and our different institutions. So we've got a handy map on the screen just here, so you can see about where we're based. So I think that we cover a good section of sort of the south and the middle of England there. So you can see kind of where we are, particularly in relation to London, which I know is always a big question. So it's me starting off again. So just to introduce you then to Falmouth. So we like to think of ourselves as the Creative Industries University. So we've been a hub of creative thinking and design innovation for over 120 years. We started off as a School of Art in 1902, and then now we are actually the second largest specialist creative university in the UK. As you can see from the top picture there, we are based on the coast. We're based in a beautiful county of Cornwall in the UK, which is about as far southwest as you can get in England. The county of Cornwall is a really thriving artistic county, and also a very popular holiday destination because of the beaches and the things like that you see on the screen there. So we've got two purpose-built campuses that are purpose-built for creativity and design. For those of you that are interested, if you're joining this talk, so if you're interested in games or in film or visual effects, you would be based on our Penryn campus, which is the larger of the two. So just a note about our departments, so our Games Academy and our School of Film and Television. So our Games Academy is really, really highly ranked and internationally recognised. We've just found out that the new Princeton Review, which is the league table that looks at games development, has put Falmouth University as #1 in England and second in the UK, and I believe 30th in the world for studying games development. So really well renowned for games development, game art, art and game animation programs. You will also be based in the largest dedicated games studio space of any UK university. It's literally a converted warehouse that has been converted into a games development studio. We've got an esports lab, robotics lab, all sorts of different things. Then our School of Film and Television, we have one of the longest running film schools of any UK university, and there you can study animation, post-production and visual effects. We like to say that our motto is doing it for real, and that's because we really, it's inbuilt into our curriculum that students will be working in the same way or a similar way to how they would do in industry. We've got a huge focus on employability with an award-winning employability service, and we support all students to do a placement as well. So I think that's about it for me. Do take a look at our website if that sounds of interest to you. But I believe I'm now handing over to Will.
And I am the international officer at Goldsmiths for the Americas, and I'm based in Brooklyn, but our university is located in London. We've been a member of the University of London since 1904, and the University of London is a very prestigious research-heavy institution, and so Goldsmiths is likewise a very research-intensive school. In the last government framework, Research Excellence Framework, we were named the 21st, I guess, highest university for the quality and international significance of our research. We are a single site campus in the heart of Southeast London, and we're a quick 10-minute train journey from the city center. It's a single site campus, meaning it's all of your undergraduate coursework and support is located in one place, which is kind of rare for schools in London. Most schools have multiple campuses spread throughout the city. So this definitely lends to a very collegiate environment. A lot of our staff and students live very close by. So it's a very great place to be a student. You kind of notice we also have a very large college green in our top photo there. So all that green space is also really nice to have in central London. We have around 10,000 students on our campus from over 135 countries, and about 80 languages are spoken among our students and staff. So it's a very international university. We are also committing to our Green New Deal. So we hope to be a carbon neutral organization by 2025 and a net zero carbon emissions institution by 2030, which would make us the first institution to reach both of those goals in the UK. Our degree programs are focused on many different areas. We are a comprehensive university. So we do creative arts, like our fine art design, media communications and computing programs, like games programming, and our film and television school, our screen school, which is housed in our media communications department. We have the largest and oldest media communications department in Europe. So it's a very prestigious program as well. But we also have business and management, psychology, and a range of social sciences, humanities, and law programs, education as well. We also have very influential alumni. So we have many alumni that have won the Turner Prize. We have 9 Turner Prize winners among our alumni, which is the most of any UK university. We also have Mercury Prize, Oscar, BAFTA, Tony, Olivier Award winners as well. So plenty of very prestigious alumni as well.
Okay, it's my turn. Yeah, we're Norwich University of the Arts, also known as NUA or NUA. And as Rachel showed you, we are in the east of England. You can see us on the little map there. We're about a 2-hour journey from London, to give you an idea of distance. And Norwich itself is a medium-sized historical city. It's a medieval city. It's a very beautiful environment to be in. And our campus is located really in the historic heart of the city. You can see a couple of images there of our campus. In terms of our size, we're a medium-sized, well, actually quite a small institution. We've got 2,700 students. About 9% of those are international, and they come from all over the world. So you're likely to have a couple of people from your country, but you'll also meet people from lots of different backgrounds as well. And we may have a pretty historic campus, but if you go on the inside, we have cutting edge high-tech facilities. We've got the Sir John Hurt Film Studio, which is located in Boardman House, which is the building you can see on the left-hand side photo there. And that's also where our architecture students are based. So that's quite representative of who we are. All of our specialist practical creative degrees all mingle together. It is very much a creative community you're joining when you decide to study with us. And you will be encouraged to collaborate across courses. In terms of the degrees we offer, you can see a sample there. But if you're joining this talk, you're probably more interested in our Games Art and Design course. We also have a Games Development course, and animation, and a separate animation and VFX. So specifically, if you're interested in studying special effects. As I mentioned, we have a film and moving image production degree as well. And, you will have plenty of opportunity, as I said, to work across those and collaborate. We have great graphics courses as well on the media side of things, and they all share a common first year. So graphic designers work with communication design people and UX designers too. So there really is a focus on you learning all of the relevant technical skills with our technicians, and also working to industry conditions. So you'll start working on live briefs throughout your degree, and you'll be working very much in studio, making things from the get-go. We were named in the top 10 for teaching quality this year in the Sunday Times Good University Guide, which we're very proud of. But I really think, it's a mixture of all of those things. So our facilities, our sense of community, and the high quality courses that we have.
Fantastic, thank you so much. And as just to reiterate, I think that obviously we've just given a very quick overview of our universities, but if you're interested in looking into any of us, please do go on our websites or ask us questions. So that's a good segue into the Q&A section of the evening. Sorry, not the evening for most of you, for the day for you. So please do send in your questions. If there's anything that's not been totally clear, or you've got any specific questions, please do put them in the Q&A section. And I can see that we've got one already. So we've got a question here. What's the difference between character design and concept art for characters? So I don't know if Nuala or Will, you want to take this one, or if I should go ahead?
Yeah, I can start to answer. So when we say concept art, and that's usually applied to games, art and design, a lot of the time that will include character design, but that's not the only thing you'll do within concept art. You will also have a bit of environment and things like reference image research and things like that. Character design can also be applied to animation. You'll be doing, if you're doing an animation degree, for instance, you'll be doing character design, and that will encompass things like anatomy, for instance, or life drawing, which you wouldn't necessarily do as much on a games course. So character design means different things depending on the context in which you're doing it, whether it's a games contest or an animation context. For us anyway. I don't know if Will or Rachel wants to add to that.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also worth looking at what a concept artist or a character designer is in industry. Often they will work together, and often the character designer will be the person that's taking forward the ideas of the concept artists. So that's often sort of how the pipeline works in terms of industry. But as Nuala mentioned, also as a concept artist, you will be looking at other areas other than just character design. So hopefully that's answered that question. So just while I wait to see if we've got any other questions coming in, another question that we get often at these sort of things is I guess you covered it already a little bit, Will, but what would be an ideal student to study one of these courses? So for those that are watching here today, what are the sort of certain characteristics or experience that you think would really lend yourself to benefiting from studying one of these programs? Will, why don't I go to you first?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd say, I mean, from a Goldsmiths perspective, like we don't necessarily have like one particular type of student that we're looking for. So you know, we can teach you technical things. We can teach you coding um, or things like that. There obviously should be some sort of like natural uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Natural tendency to want to pursue one of these subjects, and I think you can definitely demonstrate that in your personal statement and in your portfolio. But I would say there's not really one particular type of student that we're looking for. You know, we have students that come from a range of backgrounds, but I think if you are looking to pursue these programs, you should have some sort of sense of or some sort of idea of what you're looking to either do after school in these areas, or at least have some sort of good and robust portfolio when you're applying.
Yes, similarly, we don't have there is no such thing as an NUA student, just like there isn't an NUA style. We're very much about you showing us what your potential and your interests are through your portfolio, through your personal statement. We don't do interviews, but we have an applicant questionnaire, which is an extra chance for you to tell us more about yourself and what you're interested in exploring in your studies. And it really is on the basis of those things that we will offer you a place. Obviously, depending on the kind of degree you want to do, you know, if you're more into the BA and creative side of things, you know, we will want to see you maybe drawing from a range of styles. If you're more into the programming and games development or creative computing side of things, it'll be more about, you know, what sort of coding have you managed to teach yourself already? What experiments have you done maybe with indie development, things like that. So we're looking for potential. We're not looking for perfection, but you do need to be curious, and you do need to show us you know, what makes you creative, and what makes, you know, your projects individual.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, I think that I would reiterate all of that. I think it's a question that we get quite a lot, because as I mentioned, these sort of degrees are going to be degrees that you won't have, you're likely not to have studied these areas before at school. So it's not like doing a history degree or an English degree. You know, these are completely new fields. So I think that sometimes that can be quite intimidating, and students think that you need to already be sort of well versed in different sort of coding languages and things like that beforehand. So yes, so I would just reiterate that we're also really looking at potential, and also sort of passion and commitment, and that's not necessarily commitment in terms of that you've done loads and loads of things beforehand, but commitment that you can demonstrate through your interview and through your application by showing us that you've researched the degree, but also that you've researched the sector, and that you really understand what doing a degree like this would involve. So I think that's what I'd say that we're looking for. So at the moment, it doesn't look like we've got any other questions, but please do send them in if you do have anything that's come up from our presentation. I suppose for students that are joining us now that are thinking of studying one of these degrees, another question that we often get is what advice we would give to students in terms of making the decision for the type of degree that they want to do. Because as we've mentioned, there's just so many different ones out there, and so many of them do have helpfully either the same name or very, very similar names. So Nuala, I don't know if you've got any advice or top tips that you give when doing your research into different degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, particularly for these newer degrees, not just with games, but if you're looking at something like, UX design or robotics or computing, creative computing, any of those, you might have an idea of what it means, but not be fully clear on what you'll be doing during 3 years. So it's really, Rachel already said this, but I really recommend looking up the degrees that are available and then going on the course pages, looking at if there's detailed breakdown of what you will be learning and doing on those courses, look at them, compare them between different institutions, because there will be maybe a difference of emphasis. Maybe things are taught slightly differently in different institutions. So really have a look and see what the course content is, but also have a look at the institution and think about where you want to be, because you will be spending 3 years of your life, maybe more, in this place. So it's really worth looking at other things. And like we said, going to open days, using UniBuddy, trying to chat to current students, coming to events like this, it's a really great way for you to make your decision.
Thanks, Nuala. I think that's a really good answer. Will, I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
I think Nuala covered it pretty well. But yeah, I think, it really also depends, I think, a lot on faculty too. I think it's really wise to look at the faculty at each institution and also who is teaching in each course, because that also might give you a good idea of what the department and what the university and what the course is focusing on. So that can give you a good idea of what research is going on, or what sort of the department or faculty in the department are focusing on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's some really good advice there. I think sort of the sort of overarching advice is to just make sure that you leave yourself enough time to do your research. Yeah, coming along to an event like this is a really good start. So I can see that we've got another question in here, which is about entry requirements. Oh, sorry, it's not about entry requirements. It's related to that. So someone asks, do you have a preference for IB Mathematics, AA or AI? Will, does Goldsmiths have a preference for IB Mathematics?
We don't, but I would say that, generally speaking, if you're looking to study like computer science or related coursework, I would think, I tend to say analysis and approaches is a better choice. But from our perspective, we don't have a particular requirement, no.
Great. And Nuala?
No, similarly, we don't have a specific preference. Again, you will be probably doing a lot of analysis if you're doing things like coding, game development, computing. So that might be a better approach. But as I said before, it really is more than your transcripts. It's all the other parts of your application that we look at on an equal basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's the same for us as well. No, so we don't have any preference, and we don't sort of list the sort of specific requirements in that sense that we're looking for. But yes, as has been mentioned already, that is good to bear in mind in terms of the foundation of your skills, looking at sort of analysis. If you're going on to doing computer science or one of those degrees, then that could be a good foundation for you. Okay, great. So hopefully that answered that one. Okay, great. All right. So I'll see if we get any more questions in, and if not, we can always finish this session just a little bit earlier. But I suppose as we've got sort of three of us here from three different institutions, we've been talking about the best way to sort of how you can work out the best way to differentiate between different institutions. This might be a good opportunity for each of us to talk about maybe what's a bit unique about our institutions in terms of what we offer, as an indication of the sort of things that are available. So Will, I mean, do you want to talk a bit about what makes Goldsmiths unique in these programs?
Yeah, and these programs in particular, I think, a unique part of our university is that we are a comprehensive school. So, it's not just a school for the creative arts. So if you're looking to do, computer science or games design or things like that, you have both sides of that. So you get hard computer science, we have business computing or music computing, but we also do have creative and digital arts and games design and programming. So you'll get kind of the best of both worlds in the computer science department. And we also have tons of state-of-the-art facilities across the department as well. And you can get into things like 3D printing or visual effects or anything like that. But also in our media communications department, you can do animation and digital illustration and filmmaking and things like that. It's a very comprehensive program. I think the one thing about our media communications degree is that you are able to do a variety of practice options. So we have animation, creative writing, illustration, interactive media and graphic design, journalism, photography, radio, television, and film. So you can do a smattering of all those things in one degree program. And then you can focus on one of those areas for your subsequent 2 years.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Will. And yeah, and Nuala, how about NUA?
Yeah, I think we're very different. I don't want to say that we're the reverse, but instead of being sort of, as you said, a comprehensive institution, we are very much specialists, and we just do creative arts. So you're only going to be with other creatives. And as I said, we do have a lot of collaboration across courses. But I think for us, really, our strongest courses are, our game art and design course. Every year, our students who, take part in games jams and games festivals throughout the country always come back with awards or are nominated. We've got lots of alumni who've gone on to work in renowned game studios. It really is one of our strongest courses. And that's a mix of, having good industry connections, but it really is also the way that it's taught and, the freedom that you're given to explore what you're interested in, and then specialize that to a specific area of game design. But similarly, our graphics courses, so UX design is part of a bigger graphics course where you will share your first year with graphic design and design for publishing, so quite different degrees, but you'll all learn skills and techniques from each other, and you can then take that into your chosen specialism. So I think it really is that sense of community, and the sense that you are collaborating quite a bit across courses, but still keeping it very much arts focused. That makes us a very special environment.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, and I think that we're probably in the middle. I think so. I think that you've got a good. It's almost like the sort of the three bears here. So you've got a very comprehensive institution. You've got a very very specialist institution, and then at Falmouth we are specialist, but we are, as I mentioned before, one of the second largest specialist creative institutions. So we have a huge range of different programs on offer, covering the full range of the creative industries, including performance, games, films, communications, architecture. So you get to be part of maybe a slightly larger creative community. We also have a lot of cross-discipline collaboration. So every Wednesday afternoon, we have something called Open Workshop Wednesdays, which is when students get the chance to go and use facilities across any of the other departments. In the university, we also have our workshop festival, which is a week-long cross-disciplinary festival where you get a chance to be trained up in different areas. So really encouraging you to develop lots of skills outside of your course. But I think that what makes us very special, as I mentioned, was our sort of approach to teaching. So our motto is doing it for real. At Falmouth University, we don't have any theory exams at all. All of our assessments are project-based or research-based work. For a lot of courses, you'll be put in teams from very early on, often with students from outside of your course. So for example, games development, which I know I keep coming back to, you'll be put in a cross-disciplinary team and you'll be creating between 3 to 5 games over the years that you're with us. So very, very industry focused, very focused on you working in the same way that you would do in industry. And I can see that we've got another question here, which funnily enough was something we were just talking about before we started. So someone says, all the talks today were very informative. Do you go on tour to visit cities in other countries, pandemic permitting? Will, do you ever go anywhere on tour? Do you ever go traveling anywhere? Yeah.
Yes. So I can speak for, I think, all of our universities. And when I say we have international officers that have regions that they focus on, and typically, pre-pandemic and also starting soon, we'll be kind of taking up travel again in our respective territories. So like I personally am based in New York for Goldsmiths. So I handle the Western Hemisphere, so North and South America. And yes, I do travel quite extensively in the region.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we were, just before we came on, we were all saying how jealous we were of Will, who I think you've just returned from a month of traveling in South America, whereas
Guilty.
myself and Nuala are desperate to get out there and start traveling. So I personally look after East and Southeast Asia because of the continuing restrictions. I haven't been able to travel for a while, but I'm hoping that in June I will be able to start traveling again. But it's worth noting for those of you that are in the US that Falmouth, we do have a representative based in the US, Jackie, who is traveling and is on the road all the time. So yes, there should be lots of opportunities to see us out where you are. And actually on that note, oh, sorry, Will, I've realized that you don't have a picture. Sorry, that's not that's not for any specific reason. So these are our contact details. So if you are interested in getting in touch, maybe finding out when we're next going to be in your country, or if you're interested in us talking with you a little bit more, please do get in touch. I see that someone says if you came as a group, it would be very focused. This is something as well that we are looking at, is doing a lot more sort of collaborative visits. So perhaps the person who's sending in this question, perhaps if you could get in touch with us, and I'm sure that we can talk further about maybe doing a visit depending on where you are. So I think that I'll probably leave it there because we're pretty much at time. So we hope that you found this useful. Thank you so much for joining. As I said, please do get in touch with us. Please do take a look at our websites. While I've got you, also just to remind you that tomorrow there is going to be another day full of sessions covering all different areas of creative studies. So please do take a look at the schedule, and if you haven't yet, please do sign up for some sessions tomorrow. If not, I will see you soon and wish you a happy rest of your day, and thank you so much for joining. Thanks, bye.